So welcome, 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 everybody. This is the end, the last of our dip into the drips aqua remedies presentations, the very last one. Oh. And so I just want to say thank you to all the people who have been walking through all of these with me. There certainly are other aqua remedies that we could go on and do. But after doing the series that we've done, you really have a good awareness of how to use aqua remedies, of what we look at when we review them, of the sourcing problems where some of them represented a point in time and it doesn't really exist anymore, even though you can buy it, and that's kind of weird. So next month in April, we will not be having more Materia Medica on the hub sessions for usually it's the first and third week. We won't be doing that in April. There's the JAHC, there's other things that are going on. But in May, we will start again. And I'll have all the information up on the hub calendar. In May, we start with simple, imponderable remedies that everybody should know. Remedies that Hahnemann used, remedies that Berningshausen used, like Magnetus arcticus or Magnetus australis. We'll talk about those remedies. We'll talk about Luna, which was proven by Swan in the 1800s, and about Sol, the remedy made from sunshine. We'll talk a little bit about the color remedies and how we can use those like cell salts. We're going to talk about an array of different imponderable remedies, because there are times when they can really move the case forward and they're not a widely understood or utilized group of remedies. Okay? Not spleen. I think that maybe I should have picked a different day for MatMed on the hub than organs on the hub. They're not the same series. They're two completely separate series. And MatMed on the hub is the first and third Tuesdays, and organs on the hub is the second and fourth Thursdays. And so we will be doing spleen. We will be doing all those things that are part of organs on the hub. But we will be taking a break from MatMed on the hub the first and third Thursdays in April. We won't have class, but we will start again when we get to May. Okay? All right. So our session today, we are talking about Gettysburg aqua, not a widely used remedy, very useful in certain niches. And I don't know how familiar you guys are with Gettysburg. It was a huge turning point in the war. General Lee from the South had decided to march up into the Northern Territories in Pennsylvania and basically have a decisive victory there, which would then get governments outside of the United States to recognize the South as a separate country, and then it would all be good. But it didn't really work out that way. The Battle of Gettysburg had more than 170,000 soldiers, and almost a quarter of them died. There were over 40,000 casualties. That mind is just boggling. Think about how many people we lost in Katrina and what an upset we had because of that. And it sure wasn't near 40,000. If you look in here, these are all cities that are about 80,000. Sioux City, Iowa, Bloomington, Indiana, Bellingham, Washington, Kirkland, Washington, Ogden, Utah, Sugar Land, Texas, Danbury, Connecticut, Mission, Texas. All of these places, imagine that half of their population disappeared. That's how many people were lost in Gettysburg. It was a huge thing. And had that battle not happened when it did, where it did, we probably would not have this remedy. That's the honest truth. Gettysburg was an area that was rural, small, big meadows, which is part of what made it very easy to have an enormous battle there. And after the huge battle there were reports of soldiers that were healed by drinking this local water from the spring. Now, those are a little dodgy. We don't really know if any of that happened. I was not able to track down one single reliable, yes, this doctor said this soldier had this wrong and got better after drinking the Gettysburg water. So I think some of it was just a little garbagey, but a lot of promotion because of the fact that the nation's attention was on Gettysburg. It became a popular thing. And there was a particular type of water. Now, this is online. Gettysburg catalyzine water. And this comes from the Surgeon General's office library in the National Institutes of Health. And you'll notice it was published by the Gettysburg Spring Company that wanted everybody to know about the wonderful cures so that people would buy their product. Now, in here, it says that this is the Smithsonian Institute at that time analyzed the water, and they said it had nat carb, lithium carb, kali carb, mag carb, and iron something or other, and lots of calcium carb, calc carb and calc sulf. If you look at these numbers, calc carb and calc sulf make up at least half of the content. Now, this is interesting because it is different than what you read in the Materia Medica. And a lot of the Materia Medica, you can read it and see, oh, it's been cookie cuttered from here to here to here to here to here. The most complete source is T.F. Allen in Allen's Encyclopedia. There's some additional information in Pulford's Graphic Drugs and a few other places, but most of it came from T.F. Allen. And in there, he says that the great majority of this water is actually mag sulf, and he gives a description, a mineral accounting that is in fact quite different than what this says. And we aren't able to trace why he believed that. Now, this water came from Gettysburg Spring that was on a farm that was owned by a fellow named McLean. And in the 1820s, he had already begun to tell people, I have a healing spring here. And he was a preacher. And people would come to pray and to drink the water and to be healed. So this was an important part of the history of it. Eventually, after the Civil War, we've gone from the 1820s now up to the 1860s. And in 1868, this book was published. There were articles in the New York Times. If you go through the New York Times archives, you'll see articles that were placed by physicians and their patients who drank the water. So this place now is actually a national park, and you can go there if you want. In 1869, there was a health resort and spa that was built there. And this is a picture of it. And you can see the trolley track lines. They had built up a trolley path so that you could take, and you can see the little trolley here. And this is the hotel that was built. Now, the spa was open until the 1890s with people there drinking the water. And it was known as a taste-free, smell-free, a little unique with some of the waters. Remember, we talked about the water in Carlsbad that tasted like mud with a rusty nail? This is more like the Levico water that we talked about last time. And this water is an alkaline water that is the most similar to Vichy spring water in France. And the people would come there to heal. And remember that in the late 1860s to 1890s, there was still a lot of malnutrition. There was, I mean, we still had malaria going on in the country. We still had all kinds of problems with nutrition, with basic, is somebody getting enough calcium? Are they getting enough iron? Are they getting enough nutrients of various types? And so you can imagine why this water would have been incredibly effective, because it is very nutrient dense. And in your mind, you can equate this one to a mega vitamin pill. Okay? Now, you can see here, the springs were over in this area, but actually the springs were all around. The same water content, in the same way that we talked about Carlsbad, the same water content came up in lots of different places, quite different than Levico, where it was coming from this one area. If you look at the U.S. Geological Survey geohydrology report, it tells us what's in the water, and that it has a complex bedrock that the water runs through. And the geology of the area shows us that there are many different places where this water wells up, but they all are coming from the same place. Calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate are most of what's in there. And it tells us in here that the concentrations of the dissolved solids are about 40% bigger from the Gettysburg Formation, all of the specific geological influences that water is running from versus what's underneath it. And they have concentrations of iron, manganese, etc., that are a little bit bigger than what the US EPA even allows. So this is very nutrient dense. Now let's talk about why you would want to use this remedy. There are 3 different areas where I use it and find it to be very helpful. This article in the Indian Journal of Research in Homeopathy, thanks to these authors who did this work, Khandu, Ahmed, and Das, published a series of 4 cases where they used Gettysburg water in osteoarthritis, which is a very common complaint in elders. I don't see it much in younger people, but they basically took 4 cases, and they go through exactly what the details are, the case reports, and for many of these cases, they had given them several other remedies. What are a couple of the most common modalities for osteoarthritis? What makes the joint pain of osteoarthritis better or worse? Better from heat. Thank you, Mary. Yes. What makes it worse? Motion. Better from heat, worse from motion, worse first thing in the morning. So all these people were given bryonia. These people get given bryonia very easily. Oh yeah, worse damp. You can feel a storm coming. And actually, it's so interesting. Andre Sain is one of my heroes, and he is such a meticulous human. One of the rubrics that he has added to this particular remedy is worse from a particular direction of wind. I think it's from wind from the west that he must have seen. Okay, so in this case, these authors went through and they did a visual assessment. They gave all these people Gettysburg in a 200C, and it shows how many doses across how many days and how severe their pain was, when they're getting better, when they're not so much getting better. And there were some people where it got a whole bunch better, some people not as much. Some got better on placebo. The thing that I want you to notice in here was that there was a response. This water contained so many different minerals, calcium, magnesium, kali, especially lithium, which is a huge factor in deposits that are made in the joints. And so when you don't know where to begin in a case where the person is a sufferer of osteoarthritis and they want you to help them, where I begin is dosing with Gettysburg, and then I watch like a hawk to see what symptoms alter or change. I ask them to observe. I give them a whole series of things to watch for. Did any of these things change? And I think this is a very good opening card for people with osteoarthritis pain that has not responded to other reasonable remedies like bryonia or calc phos or whatever. So this is one of the ways that I really want to encourage you to use Gettysburg. And for me, I usually use it in a 12 or 30C, taken once or twice daily for about 10 to 14 days. And then I want to see them and find out what changed. You can't do this with people who are not good observers. Okay? They've got to be a reasonably good observer. And a lot of people with a little bit of coaching can do that. All right? So that's number one. People with osteoarthritis who have chronic pain that has not responded well to specific individualized remedies. This is a doorway in to the cases that I work with. Next one, osteoporosis. I have a lot of little old ladies in my practice who started with me 30 years ago when they were in their 40s or 50s, and now they're in their 70s or 80s. And a lot of them have osteoporosis, and we work with that day to day. Gettysburg is an excellent remedy for osteoporosis, particularly when the dominant bone density problems are in the hips, which is one of the first places that it shows up. A way to dose with this is once a week with a 12C, along with whatever else you're giving that person. And I just want to point out, this is an alkaline spring, spring that has a fair amount of lithium in it. It was recorded as something that brought down the size of stones in the bladder, in the kidneys, in the ureters, and helped to dissolve them. And so if you have somebody that is trying to dissolve a stone, we have other things that we know we can use for that, like calc fluor as a cell salt, and solidago, Solidago, the plant, as an organ support to help dissolve. And so here we're looking at also having Gettysburg help to dissolve stones. But in the same way, because it has a rich lithium content, and because lithium is an important factor in bone density and in building good, healthy bones, this is something where I like to include it along with or alternate. I might have somebody taking calc phos cell salts, and then after 3 weeks, I'll get them on Gettysburg for a couple of weeks, maybe in like a 3C or something. This remedy is not hard to get. A lot of different places have it and have it in a wide variety of potencies. And unlike some of the other remedies we've talked about, it seems to work very well at all the different potencies that I've worked with. You can think of it very much as sitting halfway between bryonia and silica, all of the mineral things. Now, the Gettysburg water was given to children that had weak spines. And a lot of those kids just didn't have all the minerals to properly build. So if you have somebody who's not taking up minerals very well, that would be something that could affect their bone density. That would be a particular reason to include this. Okay? So we've talked about joint pain, reason number 1. We've talked about bone density, reason number 2. The third thing that I use it for is organ support for the liver. Now, because of all of the different minerals that it's got, if I'm specifically looking for something where somebody has maybe elevated liver enzymes, and I want support for the liver, but they also have something going on with the kidneys. When I want something that addresses both of those things together, I will very often use Gettysburg. It's a wonderful tool. I know that we're talking about materia medica today, not about organ support, but that's one of the ways that I use this. Okay? Questions? Joint pain, dissolving stones, osteoporosis, liver and kidney organ support. Would you use lithium sometimes? I use that remedy plenty. Can you tell me more about your question? Do you know if it's available in Canada? I would check. Is there a pharmacy in Toronto called Riverside, River Good, Riverway, Riverdale? Thank you. Yes, I would ask them, and I would bet that they would be a very reliable source for you. Halfway between silica and bryonia. The dominant sensation for this is I feel stiff. It's interesting because their chief complaint is more likely to be stiffness than it is to be pain. Nancy says, could this help for caries of the spine when the salts don't seem to help? I suppose it would have to depend on what prompted the caries of the spine to be there. If the caries of the spine are there because of an injury. I'd have to think about that. Nancy, that brings it, if they were there because of cancer, I would say no, it doesn't apply. If caries would be a decay from within following an injury, I would probably be looking more at vulnerary remedies like Hecla lava and symphytum. to deal with caries. How does Gettysburg differ from lithium? Lithium is one small component, and it would be like like macrobid is a very specific antibiotic versus Cipro as a very wide use antibiotic. So Gettysburg has calcium, potassium, magnesium, sulfate, bicarbs, iron, copper, zinc. It's got everything in a vitamin pill in there. And lithium is a one specific thing. What potency for liver and kidney organ support? Usually like a 3C. And thank you, Beth, for exostoses. Yeah, I think it would be great. And, you know, a lot of times, guys, we're giving, when somebody has bone spurs, we're giving things like calc phos in alternation with calc fluor, and we can just put Gettysburg in the alternation. We don't want to keep somebody on something for too long because we don't want them to habituate to that thing and their vital force stops paying attention. Okay. Is that it, guys? A class about how I use lithium, a materia medica on lithium. Yeah, that's a fantastic remedy. Okay, guys. So again, this is the end of the series. We've been, for the last year, we've had materia medica on the hub on the first and third Tuesdays. I think I mistakenly said Thursday before. And we've had organs on the hub on the second and fourth Tuesday. So now we're going to take a 1 month break from materia medica on the hub. So in April, there won't be any materia medica classes on the first and third Tuesday. But come May, when we come back, we will start with our imponderables. Okay? Beth says, if I want to look at the recordings, if you subscribe as a professional member, you can subscribe monthly or quarterly. I mean, just subscribe 1 month and watch all the recordings, and then you can drop off again if it's not something that you need. Does that help you, Beth? Okay. I have a hard growth on the bottom of my foot that's tendon related. Yes, they talk in the materia medica for Gettysburg specifically about hardness of tendons and ligaments, stiffness of connective tissue. So you could think about it for things like Dupuytren's contracture as an adjunct, or, you know, any place where you've got calcifications that are happening, calcinosis, I would think about it. Would I use this for bunions? Bunions are a much more complex thing that have a lot of different reasons why they exist. And so I would have to know a lot more why that person had bunions. It could very well apply. I just don't know. Okay? All right, guys, have a fabulous week. Next week, we have organs on the hub, and we will be talking about the spleen. And then I will see all you guys in May when we're talking about imponderables. Have a fabulous week. Take care. Go toast a glass to Bönninghausen. Okay.